Oh,
So a couple of weeks ago, I was playing at Games Ogre, and we got in a whole discussion, having fun and stuff. And I mentioned how I wouldn't mind painting some of the stuff I see on the table here. Long story short, I ended up taking Joe's Storm Raven. He plays Grey Knights, and deciding to make a video out of it for you guys. Well, I took it home. And I was looking at it, I was checking it out, and I realized, whoa, there's more than I bargained for. This is what happened. So as you can tell here, I got the Raven pulled apart already. Some of it pulled apart. I just pulled apart whatever was easy to pull apart. Luckily for me, Joe just put it together really quick, get it on the table, so he didn't use too much glue. He just spot glued it. We also could tell here that he got the tail backwards, so we're gonna have to pull that out, re-glue it. See a lot of gaps here. Now the gaps are happening because when he cut it out of sprue, he didn't sand down or cut off the sprue stubs. Okay, so didn't do a good job on that. Try to glue it together, thus creating all the gaps. So we're gonna have to tear it apart. Start over. This is where the trusty sculpting knife comes in handy. Now I'm just being gentle here, just trying to get a wedge in there, spread the parts apart a little, and then wiggle it out, and sooner or later it gives. So nothing broke, nothing snapped. I pretty much got all the parts separated. Now the Storm Marine's like it's cut off the sprue. Now here comes the tedious part. Sand, sand, sand. And sanding. And sanding. And done. And here it is, all spread out. Now I did glue some of the pieces of the wings back together already, where the turbine meets and where the missile launchers have met. I didn't film that. Who cares, right? You don't really need to see every single little thing. Besides, I need to protect the ancient Chinese secret of gluing the wings and the turbines together. This stage is usually when I do interiors for vehicles. Sometimes I do the interior, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the situation and the model. In this case, I'm doing this for Joe, for someone else, so I might as well go ahead and do the interior for him. So first things first, we're going to primer the interior with Vallejo's acrylic urethane white primer. I'm shooting this straight out of the bottle. The airbrush I'm using here is the Badger Chrome airbrush. Now this is one of my all-time favorite airbrushes from Badger. If you want a recommendation, I recommend this brush. Alright, next thing we're going to do is going to do some pre-shading. Now what we're going to do is fill in the nooks and cranny with Vallejo Model Air Black. And this technique is just filling in all the nooks and crannies so that when you put the base coat over, those areas will be darker. For more information about pre-shading and post-shading, check out my video on pre-shading, post-shading Rhino, and the link will be down in the description below. Now we'll apply the base coat. The base color I'm going to be using is a mix of 3-part Model Color Buff and 2-part Model Air US Gray Light. Now I thin this mixture down to 1 to 3 parts of Vallejo thinner. 1 part paint, 3 parts thinner. So the base coat is down. I just started working on the details. I use Vallejo Model Air copper for all the pipes. Use Model Air steel for the steel cable reel up there. Also used black gray, the Model Air black gray for the seats and the seat frames at the bottom there. And then various colors of red and yellow and blue for all the buttons and stuff. The screen is black with some green designs and stuff like that. It make it look like it was a monitor being in use. Okay, we're going to start the weathering process now. What we'll do is go ahead and weather these grates here. Now obviously through time and through all the traffic with those gray nights, it's obviously going to get dirty, sometimes rusty, so we're going to go and use a rust wash here. This is Flory Models Rust Wash. It used to be called Pro Models Wash, but they changed the name. We're going to go ahead and slap some on, and not the whole panel area, just various areas here, as you can tell. We want to give it some randomness. Okay, now that we got the wash on where we need it, we'll go ahead and let it dry. Okay, now that we're going to use the dark dirt wash, and we're going to go ahead and cover the areas we didn't cover with the rust, as well as go ahead and let it overlap just a little to the rusty areas. I talk more about these washes in another how-to video, and that video is how to do panel line and detail pin washes, and the link is down over the description. Okay, now we'll go ahead and give it a layer of gloss coat, couple of layers. This is to protect what we've already painted and what we've already weathered against the next weathering process we're going to do. I'm using Pledge Future Floor Shine. We'll give it a couple of thin coats on each part. Okay, now that the gloss coat is dry, we'll go ahead and use Flory Models Wash Black. We'll go ahead and just fill in all the nooks and crannies and everything that we want to pop up and make it look dirty as well. So now that the wash is dry, we'll go ahead and arm myself with a huge roll of paper towels and piles of Q-tips, because now we got to clean this stuff up. Now the great thing about the Flory Model Wash, as I said before in the other video, is that it's clay based, so it slips right off the gloss coat, and it's really easy to clean up, as well as leaving streaks if you wanted to give that weathering effect. Now we're just using folded up paper towel here and just dipping it in water and just moistening it. Don't damp it, but moisten it, and we'll just clean out the surface. And this is where Q-tips come in handy for this type of job, is to get into the nooks and crannies where you can't reach with just a folded up paper towel. Now let's do some chipping. Obviously with all the foot traffic and usage inside the interior, the paint's going to chip. What I did here is use a piece of sponge, tore it off of one of the plug foams from my battle foam, and then used a tweezer just to dip it into the paint and just dab it onto the surface of the model. I'm using Vallejo Model Air black gray color here. I'll give it a more randomness, more realistic look. I should have used metallic black. Vallejo Air's metallic black as well to chip along with the black gray color here, but I totally forgot that. Now areas that are poking out that you could grab or hit or rub up against over time get scuffled or chipped, so it's a good idea to go ahead and chip it in those areas as well. Okay, we're pretty much finished with the weathering stuff. It looks pretty beat up inside, it's been used and stuff. I don't know why spending so much time on the interior like this, because most likely it's going to be hard to see anyways once you put the whole thing together, but hey, it's part of just pride, I guess. So let's go ahead and seal it in. Seal it with Vallejo matte varnish. Now I'm going to go ahead and magnetize the nose weapon, since it's pretty much easy to do. In order to have the weapon magnetize and stick to the surface, rather than using another magnet, I'm going to go ahead and use a piece of tin, steel tin. Now this steel tin is, you could get them like 5x9 at the hardware store. They're used for roofing or something. But basically you get those and you get shears, and then you just cut out the pieces you need, like here. The other trick to this is it's also a curved or rounded surface there, so I had to bend it correctly just to at least get it to conform to the shape. We'll go ahead and use crazy glue to glue on the tin to the model, and I'm using Gorilla Crazy Glue here. Clean up any excess crazy glue, and then we'll spray it with a spritz of zip kicker to harden it. To give it the ability to pull the weapon in and out of its seating, we're going to have to shave this bottom part of the weapon here. This is the extruding piece that holds it in originally without magnetizing. Now I'll take the weapon, we're going to put the magnet in. Now the hole here is a little too small, so we'll drill it out a bit. Use crazy glue, plug in some crazy glue. I'll go ahead and slide in the magnet, and then spritz it with zip kicker, dry it really quick. Hey, these twin-link multi-meltas? No holes. Let's make some. Okay, now let's put everything back together again. I'm using Tamiya's extra thin cement. I love this stuff. Because it's so thin, you could just go ahead and let it drizzle into the crevices. Let it melt the plastic, just hold it together, and in a few minutes you've got a good strong hold. Although here it's taking a little longer because all the protective coats I got on the interior, but as you can see here it's starting to melt the plastic. So I squeeze them together, the plastic kind of oozes out of the seams, which is perfect because once it dries, you got dry plastic there. All you have to do is take the X-Acto knife or sandpaper and then just sand it down smooth. You basically got your own built-in seam filler there. And don't forget the golden rule, measure twice, glue once. So it'll save you a lot of heartache. I'm going to need some helping hands here to hold this thing together, so I'll use my Excel blue clips. These are really cool clips. You can get them at any hobby store. You're going to have an assortment of clips, obviously. I mean, these kind of clips. There's clips that's held together by rubber bands, especially rubber bands. You can get rubber bands to hold your stuff together. And you can have little small clips you get at the hardware store, too. But clips are your friends in building models and constructing models. So make sure you have a nice arsenal in your toolbox. Just thinking up ahead that taping up the cracks in the doors to protect any sprays from going inside, because there are going to be some cracks here once this thing's put together, and it's just the way the model's built. I'm using Tamiya masking tape here, and then I'm going and taping my skin and then pulling it off just so it takes some of the tackiness away. That way when I'm done, all I have to do is just pull the doors open and just rip out the tape. Should be no problem. Now, just to skip forward ahead, I glued in the tail and the tail wings, as well as the landing gears. As I mentioned before, there's some cleaning up work. I have to sand in the seams here where the plastic came up from, but it makes a perfect, nice, smooth surface now. And finally, we glue in the wings here. And remember what I said about rubber bands being your friends? Holding it together while it dries. Love it. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The follow-up video will be up in a few days, maybe a week. So if you have any comments, just leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you. And remember, like if you like, sub if you haven't, and favorite if you love me. I'll talk to you guys later.